Hello guys, this is me, Kirill, your justice analyst, and I'm back with another analysis and reaction video. And let's take a look at one more Scandinavian country, this time Norway. Norway has finally chosen a song in Norwegian language to represent them, because Norwegian language basically, since the abduction of the rule that all songs have to be in their national language, which has happened in 1999, since then Norway has sent only one time the song in Norwegian language, and it was in 2006 with Kristin Gudbrandsen and Alve Dansen. The song of Kristin is actually one of the first songs which really made me fall in love with Eurovision back then. So I'm very excited every time to see Norwegian entries, to follow the Norwegian selection, and this year was of course no exception. I have watched all of their semifinals and the final, so of course I have seen the winning performance as well 2 times, so basically in the semifinal and in the final. But I didn't watch it actually any more times because it was not one of my personal favorites. I really was rooting for the song of Margaret Berger, Oblivion, from the very beginning. And once we saw all the live performances and I have realized that Margaret definitely has no chance this year, I was really craving for Keino to get back to Eurovision. This would have been such a fun entry, but Norway, and better to say Norwegian televoters, have decided that it's time for some folk rock and chose the band Gåte. So Gåte is actually quite a well-known band in Norway. They're active since beginning of 2000s. Even like in beginning of 2000s, they had some charting singles. And like last year, they had some charting singles. So it's basically a band which didn't just have like a short period of success, but which is constantly building up their fan base. And now they have even reached the point that they were selected for Eurovision Song Contest. So the band consists of 5 members. Gunhild Sundli is the one who is actually singing, and the other guys, they are, I would assume, rather playing the instruments. So Magnus Børmark, Jon Even Skjæra, Mats Paulsen, and Jon Stenersen. So let's just take a look at their live performance from the national final. I hope maybe now with the 3rd time it will catch me more than in the previous times. So let's dive in. Well, the last time for me to hear or see this song was actually back then in the national final of Norway, which was already, I believe, first weekend of February. So I can hardly remember the song. I just remember that it was sort of heavy, a bit dramatic, folk rock entry. So let's take a look. So I just saw that this was actually not a live vocal, it was just some pre-recorded backing vocal, but it sounds really fantastic. And I also really love that from the very beginning we see this national instrument, so we understand, okay, it will be something really very much traditions inspired. It is always so incredible how these countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, how they manage to make such high quality selections that it could be just directly, Eurovision performance. I have to say this beginning where she's still singing quite delicately in a bit of folky manner, where the music is still, not too loud and so on. And even with the slides, it really reminds me of one song from Norwegian selection, which I was a huge fan of. It was by Helen Bøksle, I think. It was called Vardlok. I know that the song will not stay like this, it's just the beginning, but still this beginning really reminds me of that entry. And as I said, I was a huge fan of this entry. So currently the beginning I'm really enjoying. I'm just, a bit scared of the part which is about to come. The way how she switched to her head voice here with these folky elements in her vocals, it is really, really mesmerizing, really beautiful vocal techniques. It's not kind of typical vocal what you would hear on everyday basis, on the radio and so on. I'm really enjoying this. Well, I have to say, I didn't like the beginning of the chorus where she's screaming. I think she's also kinda hardly hitting those notes. There is too much pressure in her voice. I think it's also not the most healthy way of singing. But afterwards, where she's again switching to more light voice, I'm really enjoying that. It's again reminding me of that entry by Helen Böxle. So yeah, actually, I think it's much better than I thought it was. Yeah, it's starting to get intense. I'm not really sure what they're singing about, so I really should check the lyrics afterwards. It sounds like she's telling us some story, maybe some saga or so from, the Nordic times. If the beginning was more like, kind of magical, more like a fairy tale, now you understand, well, this fairy tale might have a bad ending, and now we seem to be in a part where something bad is happening. Ooh, yeah, so even my vocal cords start to hurt a little bit when I'm hearing this. She's really singing on the edge of what she can. It is in some moments quite impressive, but also for me, as for the person who also likes to sing, by the way, sometimes, it hurts to listen to. Oh, have you seen how this guy just flipped this guitar around him? Well, that's quite cool, different. I'm not sure why the singer is spinning, why this guitar is spinning. Is it just some special effects, or does it even have any connection to the lyrics of the song? This we're about to find out. Well, it's really becoming more and more intense, more and more dramatic. I feel like for me in this kind of folky songs, I appreciate more a little bit when they are slightly lighter, because this kind of singing, it's already different for our ears. So when we hear folky song with this different type of singing, then I think the melody itself and the instrumental itself, this should be a bit more accessible, a bit less harsh. And in this case, it's like full package, they're going fully for this theme. So the music is right into your face, something completely different. The vocals are completely different. The song is even in Norwegian. So my only concern is that for general Eurovision public, it might look just a bit too strange. I think these backing vocals here are quite cool, like if some spirits, are talking behind them and casting some spells and so on. Sounds really cool. And by the way, I also wanted to praise once again the work of producers of this competition. I think the whole performance looks stunning. Here are so many beautiful shots where she was now leaning on the stone. It was, so picturesque, so majestic. Really loved that. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, this note in the end was also a bit too harsh for my ears. But yeah, she's singing with all her emotions, with all her power. She's giving her fully on stage. And yeah, this is also very impressive. So what a different song from Norway this year. I have really enjoyed that. I think Norway is really bringing some diversity with this song this year. Maybe it's not necessarily something for my playlist, even though I really think that some parts of the song are really right down to my alley, but just some others are slightly not. And if we take a look at the lyrics of the song, I have now quickly checked what the song is about. And here you can see some of the lyrics from the translation of the song, because the song is, of course, in Norwegian. So basically, it tells us some probably mythological story about a girl who lost her mother, and then stepmother took care of her, and she was treating her quite badly, sent her at some point of time to the king's estate, but actually there she was really liked. And stepmother, a bit annoyed by this fact, turned her presumably into wolf, because she gave her this skin like a gray wolf and cursed her to walk the forest alone, and basically cursed her to crave for her brother's blood in order to feel, whole. I'm not sure if here they really mean like her real brother or just generally like human blood, because we can refer to like the other fellow humans as brothers, And then basically she also kills this stepmother, and afterwards she's free to actually go and drink some brother's blood. So I think she just turned into a wolf, but she got her revenge to the stepmother. So yeah, fascinating story, a bit dark, but the whole song is kind of dark. And let's take a look where Norway will perform in the semifinals this year. And as you can see on your screen, Norway will perform on the spot 15 in the second semifinal, so almost at the end. After them will be only slightly more up-tempo and optimistic song from the Netherlands called Europapa. But before Norway will be actually another quite heavy song. I believe this is a ballad from Israel, Hurricane. And before that, also Silly Song from Estonia. So yeah, very interesting lineup. But of course, the semifinal draw is actually very good for Norway, because we know that the songs which are performed somewhere towards the end of the semifinal definitely stand much better chances to qualify, especially this year, where we also have some automatic finalists performing between the semifinalists. So actually the semifinal turns slightly longer because of that, and I think it gives even additional advantage to the songs towards the end. So I think in the case of Norway, it's not really about if they're qualifying or not, it's more how high can they climb in the final. And now it's time to take a look at the history of Norway in the Eurovision semifinals. And as you can see on your screen, Norway in the last 15 years is actually ranked as country number 1 in the semifinals. So of course it puts them also in place number 1 in the semifinal. And if we take a look at the last 5 years, they are ranked second, just behind Ukraine, and of course still first in this semifinal, because Ukraine is competing in the first semifinal. So it might not appear as such, because if you are also considering the jury results, the juries were very often putting Norway slightly lower, and in 2011, Stella Mwangi with Haba Haba actually didn't qualify because of the juries, but would have qualified if it would be only up to the televote. But even if Norway is so successful with qualifications, and actually they are kind of like never basically close to even not qualifying, they still had one unsuccessful attempt, and it was in 2016 with Agnet and Icebreaker. I find it also quite interesting that Norway actually being the most successful country in the semifinals of the last 15 years managed to be in the top 3 of the semifinals just 3 times. So of course, with Alexander Rybak in 2009, then one more time with Alexander Rybak in 2018, but this time only with 3rd place. And of course, Kino won not only the televoting in the semifinal, but also in the final in 2019. So Norway has definitely found a right recipe for success at Eurovision, at least among the televoters. So I'm pretty sure that this year they should not have any issues. And now let's take a look at what the bookmakers think, if they agree that Norway should be in the final this year. And as you can see, Norway is ranked 14th, so just behind Austria, Sweden, Lithuania and UK, but above Finland, Ireland, Georgia and Serbia. So basically place 14, of course, guarantees that they should most probably be in the final. But it also tells that Norway we will probably not see in top 10 in the end. But I think it will all really depend on how the Eurovision public will understand the song, because I feel that it was so complicated. It had so many interesting references, you know, to the mythology, with the lyrics, to this specific genre of this folk rock. And all of these things are so new for the Eurovision public that I'm really struggling to imagine how well it can do with the televote this year. And the juries, well, we have already seen even in the Norwegian selection that they were not ranking it as high. They would really need a spot somewhere in the second half of the final so that their televoting score would be good enough to put them higher. And in the Eurovision Scoreboard app, Norway at the moment is on place 10, just behind Ukraine, Austria, Netherlands and Lithuania, and above France, Sweden, Serbia and Spain. So the song is ranked slightly higher than by the bookmakers, but I can really understand that, because if I'm thinking about the Norwegian entry this year, I just cannot get out of my head the entry of Spain from last year by Blanca Paloma. But unfortunately, the song of Blanca Paloma was a bit too heavy, or maybe a bit too different for the Eurovision audience, and therefore she got last place with the televote with just 5 points. So this is what I thought about the Norwegian entry. So far, for me, it seems to be kind of a successor of Blanca from last year. So I think they will definitely qualify to the final with the help of the televote. But in the final, yeah, I struggle to see them being somewhere in top 15. So for me, it's somewhere rather around place 20, but it really depends on their running order as well. And tell me, did you maybe have another favorites in the Norwegian Melodif Grand Prix? I think it was such an amazing lineup, such a strong selection. Please let me know down below in the comments which song you wanted to represent Norway in the contest and if you're happy with the winner. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.